Hello and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imonia Marire. Welcome. On Tuesday, January 25, Transparency International released the 2021 Corruption Perception Index, otherwise known as the CPI. The report was released exclusively in Nigeria by the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, the national chapter of Transparency International. The index ranked Nigeria as the second most corrupt country in West Africa by virtue of the fact that it ranked 154 out of the 180 countries surveyed globally, 5 places down from the 149th position in the 2020 survey. The report is coming at a time when the incidences of corruption, insecurity, and unemployment, amongst other ills, are at an all-time high. The report also indicates that Nigeria dropped 1 place in the corruption rating from 25 points in the 2020 ranking, scoring 24 points out of the 100 points in the 2021 CPI. Anti-corruption activists say it is the worst rating the country has received in recent years. The CPI uses a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 equals the highest level of perceived corruption and 100 equals the lowest level of perceived corruption. The index aggregates data from at least 8 sources to arrive at its conclusions on a country's level of corruption. Some identified aspects of corruption used in the data collection include bribery, the diversion of public funds, use of public office for private gain without consequences, red tape and excessive bureaucratic burden, which increase opportunities for corruption, nepotistic appointments as against meritocracy, effective criminal prosecution of corrupt officials, legal protection for whistleblowers, journalists, and investigators, and state capture by narrow vested interests. If anything, this latest ranking clearly indicates that corruption is getting worse in the country. This has raised a lot of questions. Have the strategies adopted by the government in combating corruption failed? What level of independence do the anti-graft agencies have and exercise? Nigeria is expected to suffer a 6 trillion naira loss on its 2022 budget. What has the government done with the large amounts of monies recovered from corrupt politicians? Now we shall be taking a critical look at the CPI 2021 while raising the necessary questions. For instance, why is the government and its agencies always uncomfortable each time the CPI is put out? Who and how is this index put together? Some of the questions that we will be trying to unravel on the program today. Join us right after now. All right, let's get to meet our guests on the program today. First, from my far left is our Ibrahim Musa Raswanjani. He is the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Center, and the country rep for Transparency International. Thank you so much for joining us. Also joining us is Lukman Adefolahon. Mr. Adefolahon is an anti-corruption expert, and he's of the 21st Century Community Empowerment Initiative, a member of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption Coalition. Mr. Adefolahon, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So, Rasanjani, let's begin this way. I'm sure that since the release of this CPI for 2021, you must have gotten a lot of flags from different quarters as to how this report came about. You always do every year. Every year you put out this kind of report, you always have this kind of flag, questions, and of course queries all over. But tell us, how was this report put together for 2021?
Thank you very much. Like we've said, each year we try to explain to Nigerians and the general public, all over the world, how Transparency International go about putting together this report. So Transparency International does not sit down to put this report by itself. It rather works with credible and respected, acknowledged globally institutions that they do annual rating in different sectors. So for Nigeria, for instance, we have 8 sources, which some of the sources, interestingly, Nigeria is even part of it, like the World Bank, where Nigeria goes to even borrow money, World Bank, IMF, where Nigeria also gets credit, and therefore these are sources that Transparency International is relying on to compute and aggregate their report. And each of the agency or foundation or institution that conduct this research, Transparency International does not take their report for if it is just a few countries, it has to be multi-countries ranking. Say, for example, if you take World Bank or IMF, IMF and World Bank covers virtually all over the world. The same thing was also other, source like Varieties of Democracy. They also look at democracy, how democracy is playing out, how political corruption is playing out in each country. So we will take their report if their report covers, multiple countries and continents. And then it is on the basis of that we now take their data and compute and aggregate to say, okay, this is what you are saying about Nigeria. This is the ranking you have done on Nigeria. This other, source, this is what they are saying about Nigeria. Then you aggregate and you come up with that ranking. That's how Transparency International is coming up with this ranking. Secondly, this ranking is done and is verified. As a matter of fact, there was an audit by the European Commission to see the authenticity and the relevance of this methodology. And it was tested and it is proven to be still relevant and suitable to go on with. So Transparency International itself had evaluated the methodology, in the last couple of years. It has evaluated the methodology and it is still, believed that it is one of the best way in which you can also, carry out this ranking. Now, the other thing that I also want to say is that this report has nothing to do with evaluating or assessing government anti-corruption or assessing EFCC, ICPC, or Code of Conduct, or police, or any other agencies. It is simply looking at public sector corruption, the corruption that Nigerians are facing on a daily basis when they are looking for public services. For example, how Nigerians, suffer in the hands of those wicked public officials for extortion, for bureaucratic difficulty and creating opportunity for extortion and corruption. In the education, how Nigerians suffer before they are able to get admission with all the, qualification they have. Because if you don't pay bribe, you will not go there. If you go to hospital, how Nigerians suffer, especially at local level, to even have access to those hospitals and to see the doctor or even get bed space, you have to pay bribe. In fact, in some instances, you even go, you are bleeding, they will not attend to you unless you pay bribe. The same thing also when you go to get driving license. You follow all the due process. You made the payment online, but still they will not give it to you. You have to pay a bribe. Likewise, too, the same thing with the Nigerian international passport. Many Nigerians, immigration services. Many Nigerians abroad are crying. Just last couple of weeks, it was reported about 1.something million Nigerians in Italy are not able to have access, to the passport, to renew their passport, because they will tell them, go and come back, go and come back. And the same thing with virtually all the embassies. So the corruption has even moved to the foreign land where Nigerians officials are perpetuating this. So in the same thing, if you go to police station to bail, ask women what they suffer. They will extort them, even though bail is free, but go and see if you can get any bail, unless you are a big man. Maybe if you are a big man, they will not, harass you for money. But the ordinary Nigerian, if you don't even pay that money, then you may end up being framed. They may even frame you for a crime that you did not even know or you did not even do. So Nigerians are going through this on daily basis. And what we expected the Nigerian government to do is to say, look, because the whole goal, the whole ultimate, of CISLAC, Transparency International, other civil society organizations is to see how we support government to deal with issue of corruption. It is not our interest to see that this rating continue to be negative, because it affects us. It also affects our psychology. When you travel out, you are seen as a corrupt potential. In fact, even ordinary African countries, when you are a Nigerian, you have Nigerian passport, you are seen as a suspect. So Nigerians are tired of those things. Not everybody is involved in corruption. But because the few people who are holding us to ransom, who are making life miserable, who benefit from corruption, they will always come here and dismiss this report, like we have been seeing them every year. Rather than saying, okay, how do we block the leakages? How do we deal with this, corruption matter? They are rather coming to dismiss the report. But do you even need Transparency International report to know that there's a corruption in Nigeria? Every day, EFCC is dealing with some people. ICPC is dealing with some people. Code of Conduct Tribunal is dealing with some people.
Even Nigerian police.
Even Nigerian police is dealing with people for corruption. So do you even need Transparency International to tell you that corruption in Nigeria is endemic? Secondly, the President Muhammadu Buhari came to power with anti-corruption agenda. If there was no corruption in Nigeria, or if there is no corruption in Nigeria, will the President make that as one of his cardinal issues to deal with? Let's not deceive ourselves. Let's do something that will help minimize this corruption, because as a result of this corruption, you see insecurity is increasing because money budgeted to buy arms and weapons are stolen, are eaten. For example, recently, since 2019, some arms were being expected to come to Nigerian police. The person who got this contract, one person has presented 10 companies, the same address, the same everything, and one person just has 10 contracts without following due process. We have a public procurement law. Until today, nothing, not even rifle, not even one bullet have been delivered to the Nigerian police. Many of these are happening on regular basis, And look at the president was even quarreling with the National Assembly over budget padding and also abuse of constituency project. And that's why EFCC and ICPC have been chasing some members of the National Assembly and some of the contractors who have cornered this constituency project for their own selfish political interests. Public funds, you corner it because the system is so loose. So if all these are happening, you don't expect rating. Look at the judiciary. Judges that have been investigated to have been involved in corruption, they are all being back now. What confidence will you give to the judicial system? Appointment of the judges themselves sometimes is met with nepotism and not through merit. look at what is the testimony you are getting from National Assembly, from different agencies coming to testify how they steal money. I mean, during the public hearing, look at how some people shamelessly, they came to testify how they have corner money. Look at how abuse of even security boards by some of the governors. Look at how entire budget will be budgeted for intervention in the area of health or in the area of social sector. This will be stolen or diverted, by some people, and we will not be now be surprised. Look at the Panama scandal. We have international scandal that involves public official in Nigeria. You have Paradise Paper, you have Panama Paper, you have Pandora Paper. All of this scandal, Nigerian government has not investigated and punished those who have done this. Again, $18 billion is leaving this country every year through our financial system. And yet you say you are fighting corruption. Again, look at recently, ECOWAS released a report showing how billions of dollars are coming through our financial system to finance terrorism. There's a synergy between corruption, terrorism, and poverty. And if you say you are fighting, so what some of the government officials who are beneficiary of looting and stealing are doing is to simply come and abuse Nigerians by telling them that there's no corruption when Nigerians every day are facing corruption, or that we don't deserve this ranking. Nigerians are even saying, look, stop calling it perception. It's real. But at least here is calling it perception. So the damning consequences of corruption lead to the level of insecurity, the level of poverty, the level of unemployment, the level of collapse of social sector. Look at where is the transportation system in Nigeria. Corruption has killed Nigerian Airways. Corruption has killed even road transport. Corruption has killed the train station. The train, transportation system. Every aspect you carry that has to do with the public is abused in this country. So instead for anybody to come and start, dismissing this report, what we expected, like we have seen with other countries like America, like Britain, like European countries, and even some other countries in Africa, Rwanda, what they do, they say, okay, TI, because in each of these countries we have chapter, can you please come support us to strengthen our system? America is holding a conference on democracy, human rights, and anti-corruption. They are working with our chapters in America. Last year, we rated America low. And they are now, listening to TI to say, okay, what can we do? And they even volunteer to host a global conference because the corruption is so endemic all over the world. In the UK, Britain, the rating last year, we rated UK also low. This year, Canada has been rated low. Belgium has been rated low. Switzerland has been rated low. None of these countries have come to abuse their chapters or to abuse Transparency International because they are serious mandate, even though corruption in the public sector in those countries is not even really much, because you can easily access services. You don't need to pay bribe to get passport in America if you are an American. You don't need to pay bribe to get passport in England if you are qualified to get passport in England. But in Nigeria, even to buy a ticket from Abuja to Kaduna, you have to pay bribe to get that ticket. Nigerians are facing this and some of the beneficiaries of corruption will come and open their mouths and be talking about dismissing this and this is not relevant to them, blah, 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 blah. It's time for public officials to be responsible to respect the sensitivity and the suffering that they are causing for Nigerians as a result of the looseness in the system, and also, allowing corruption to go without, dealing with this corruption. We commend the effort of EFCC, ICPC, Code of Conduct, and even Nigerian police, because they have response, unit, RCU, right?
CRU.
Yeah, SRU. They are dealing with also, misconduct of policemen, and we are working with them. We are supporting them because they are doing very good work. So we are not anti-government, and
Okay.
we want, government to succeed in the fight against corruption. But we don't tolerate this, abuse of our sensitivity, and continuing to, create opportunity for looters to continue to loot and do whatever they want to do in this country. This will not happen.
Okay. Look, man, let's take a step backward and look at the methodology and the sources of the data used, because all of these will equal or will amount to how much integrity this report really presents at the end of the day. Yep. So the methodology adopted, the sources of data, especially the sources, are they in the open? Are public institutions involved in helping to put this data together?
Thank you very much. And I think that methodology is what we want Nigerians to understand. Like Rafsanjani mentioned, the index is not assessing the anti-corruption program of Nigeria or anti-corruption agencies, but rather those 8 sources that TI used for 2021 CPI, they are available to the public and they are reputable. And one of them is what average businessman or an investor that want to come to any countries in the world will go to go and see how countries are performing, and that is the World Bank index. It is very clear that anybody that want to take money or take loan or grants from World Bank, they will go straight to the World Bank index to go and see how countries are performing. So the methodology is not what happened here in Abuja or in Nigeria, like Rafsanjani mentioned. It is at a multi-country level. So it's not measuring 5 countries or ECOWAS country or Eastern Bloc countries. No, it is the whole multi-level countries where investors can have confidence in. And I can tell you that after releasing this CPI yesterday, clever investors will look at it, study it, and see how they can engage with us as a country. Now we are having -1. Definitely investors will be discouraged. And like you said in your background, Nigerian government needs to change their strategies. The answer is yes. Yes, in the sense that other countries sit with TI chapters, sit with civil society organizations, sit with media, and look at ways to close those gaps. You will agree with me that ordinary Nigerians will tell you that the level of bribery, even the UNODC report that was released in conjunction with Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, showed that bribery in the public sector is increasing. And the report is looking at corruption in public sector. And one of the mandates of ICPC is to create awareness, also to do system review. And it is high time ICPC and other anti-corruption agencies should sit together, work together closely, and stop duplicating resources and share information among themselves. If you look at the 2 reviews of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption that was conducted in Nigeria in 2013 and 2016, it was clearly said we are duplicating effort in Nigeria, the way we are fighting corruption. And ICPC at a point conducted corruption risk assessment in selected MDAs. If you go to these MDAs that corruption risk assessment were conducted in 2013, that is the port and education sector, there is a little improvement. But can we do the same across the MDAs and see how we can conduct corruption risk assessment, identify the vulnerabilities, and develop integrity plan to close those gaps? Now, under this administration, we've seen the number of MDAs that are not submitting the statutory audit report. The number is increasing. So if TI now come out and said, we are not doing well in public sector corruption, then that means we are correct. We are correct because before this administration came into power, the number of MDAs that are not submitting mandatory audit reports, the numbers were few. But between 2015 till date, the number of MDs that are not submitting audit report that are statutory are increasing. It means something is wrong somewhere. Now, I give you another example. Look at Office of Auditor General for the Federation. That is the #1 anti-corruption agency in Nigeria. We are still using 1954 Ordinance Audit Law in 21st century. If truly Nigerian government want to fight corruption with the political will that this administration brought in 2015, we should have latest audit law in place, because the 1956, that is before independence, that is what the Auditor General of the Federation relied on.
That's the colonial ordinance.
Colonial ordinance to audit public institution. Then something is wrong somewhere. Now, we have been advocating that we need whistleblowing law in our country. Now, since 1990 date, we have been battling with National Assembly to pass the outstanding Public Finance Management and Corruption Law. Before them, what we have is policy, and we can't fight corruption without citizens owning it. If citizens should own fight against corruption, we will get better results. Because you want to blow whistle, you are not protected, you will be discouraged. What we have is policy that Nigerians cannot even access. It was domiciled in the Ministry of Finance that is not accessible. And a committee was set up, Presidential Initiative on Continuous Audit, that's supposed to work closely with Office of Auditor General to close the leakages so that we can get enough resources. Look at our budget, 2022 budget, we are going to have deficit. Deficit has been shown already. That means we still go and borrow money now, and we are getting leakages every day from our budget. Our colleagues in budget just let us know that we have duplication of projects in 2022 budget. If this CPI is what government will deny, ICPC came out last year and told us that they seized properties from public servants. So it means we need to see down over 300 vehicles from civil servants. That 300 vehicles can do a lot of things, and houses can do a lot of things for ordinary Nigerians. And like Ralph mentioned, we call it perception. But ordinary Nigerians will tell you that under this administration, the corruption in the public sector is increasing. Go to VIO to renew your paper and see what you are going to face.
Which is where the question comes from.
Yes.
When this government came into power, or before it came into power, it campaigned on the mantra of anti-corruption, yes, and two other key
security
and the economy.
And the economy.
Yes. And since then, I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, we have seen a decline in the Nigerian ranking as far as anti-corruption is concerned. What do you think has really gone wrong? Where is the government getting it wrong?
Like I mentioned, it is the strategies that we are using. Government need to change approach. Approach in the sense that we need to sit at the round table and discuss with relevant stakeholders. And I give an example of the Public Procurement Act. We have a law. Now we want to now move into e-procurement. Have we evaluated how we operated the normal procurement process? During the COVID-19, emergency procurement was allowed because we have that in our law. But aftermath of that emergency procurement, we started seeing a lot of mess across the MDAs. You see where they now say they want to procure PPE at very exorbitant prices that ordinary Nigerians can get nose mask. Even if you want to get at contract price, it should not be exorbitant. That is what you are saying. Because if you look at our procurement law, to some extent, we have something that is moderate that we can rely on. But the way our government is doing procurement is so funny in such a way that they do what we call contract splitting, because there is a threshold that a tender board can approve. So because of that, you will see where the accounting officer now will advertise 3-4 times because they want to do procurement fraud. And if we can get our procurement process right, I can assure you that this ranking will change by 2022. It will change because we are going to block those loopholes. When we have good laws in place, like audit bill that is pending before the Mr. President, if we can get that right, and we get whistleblowing right, we get president of crime bill right, we are interested in returning the loot. We are not after proper management and coordination of those returned assets because we lack legal framework to coordinate the asset utilization. So we need all those important laws. We have FOI. Auditor General's Office issued a guideline to MDAs that they should have dedicated FOI desk officer across MDAs. How many of them are fulfilling that? Who is tracking those issues, those guidelines issued out by the Office of Attorney General on implementation of Freedom of Information Act? You write to some MDAs, the law says they should respond to you under 7 days. Some will not even bother to respond to you. And if someone to respond to you, they will now respond to you in a tactical way. Either reply you and say, okay, our legal department is still studying your letter. We will get back to you. That is what you will find in our public offices. Recently, we did a joint project with a development partner across 6 area councils in FCT. And we realized that on primary healthcare centers, situation in FCT, you'll be surprised, apart from AMAC, the remaining 5 area councils, they lack steady electricity, potable water across our primary healthcare center in the remaining 5 area councils in FCT. Imagine if you now go to other states that are not in Federal Capital Territory. What are we going to find there? In some primary healthcare center in FCT, the in charge use our money to buy MTN panel because they are expected to work 24 hours. And money has been allocated to have
there are budget
clean
heads for
energy
this every year
across the primary healthcare center. So don't bother to buy generator. Go for clean energy. Go for clean energy to get water to the primary healthcare center. Some of them, the 5 area council in FCT, they are still buying water from water vendors across the FCT. And that is what we are looking at, that how are Nigerians feeling the impact of government when it comes to service delivery? If you go to hospitals, that is another thing entirely. It is because of the rotting in public institutions that leads to having private hospitals, private schools, and you can see what we are getting from that now. It means government needs to stand up to its responsibilities in terms of service delivery and fight corruption in such a way that Nigerians will own it. And it is high time we should concentrate at subnational. Ralph mentioned about security vote, what some governors are doing with their, because security vote is more of loose money that they are not accounting for. And if governors can utilize that judiciously, the issue of insecurity we are experiencing now will reduce. It's not about buying refurbished vehicle and line them up for commissioning. No, engage with the community. Let the community know that they have a role to play in the security of their lives and properties, and be sincere with them. Then when we get that, you will see that we will get tangible results from Nigerians.
Okay, Rasanjani, the impression is created when this report is released every year that it's probably just an assessment of the federal government alone. Does it include what goes on at state and local government level?
The report is looking at Nigeria, and Nigeria is made up of 3 tiers: federal, state, and local governments. And you will know, and I'm sure you will know that very well, the kind of rot that goes on in the states is unbelievable. And it has been also extended to local government. So the report is comprehensive in the sense that it looks at different tiers of government. It is also looking at different, different
arms of government,
yes. Executive, judiciary, and the National Assembly. Because there's a system failure And if there's a system failure, there's opportunity for people to do what they are doing. We try to always explain to people that, look, TI, civil society group in Nigeria, their major interest is to see how our anti-corruption and government succeed in its fight against corruption, because it has a greater implication of our lives. If money is budgeted to provide, arms to protect us, and if somebody diverted that money, looted the money, that person put all of us at risk. If money is budgeted for education, to educate to the schools, and somebody stole that money, it also affects the education quality of our children. The same thing also on the healthcare. In fact, one expected that there should be a kind of repentance by public officers, especially in the health sector, because of the COVID. We were thinking that COVID should be like a lesson, and it should be like a wake-up call to at least stop or minimize looting in the health sector. But it's like COVID has brought additional opportunity for diverting and misappropriating public taxpayers' money. You remember in the National Assembly last year, there were some public hearings where some public official came to give testimony on how they looted money. Nobody arrested them. Nobody asked them to return the money. So I think, Nigerians appreciate and, are grateful to the contribution that the civil society are making in terms of minimizing, corruption in the country. Because without this whistleblowing that we are doing, I can assure you that what some public official would do in this country, they won't even mind to sell the country and pocket the money and maybe go and do what if it is possible for them. Because everywhere is deal. Everywhere is deal. This FCT, for you to get a land, you follow all the due process. To get a land, if you don't pay bribe, forget it. Even if you get the allocation, there are some people they call edges. If you don't pay bribe, they will hide your allocation. So everywhere is the thing. And those who think that, okay, just look at yesterday. Yesterday, some people who were at the seat of public offices, they were insulting TI, they were insulting civil society for raising corruption. Sooner or later, themselves too, they were accused of that by the same government. So that is why you need to be honest and sincere and patriotic, so that it is not about regime protection. What some of these government officials are doing, they are doing what is called regime protection. So they don't care if another government comes and the nonsense going on, as long as they will be able to defend their own government as if they own Nigeria, and if this Nigeria, this democracy is just for them. So I think some of these public officials, watch them. After this tenure, I can assure you, they will also, another government will also come and start trying them, just like the current government, has been trying those one of the past, because they are all in the same bandage. They are all doing the same thing. So some of the current officials in this regime, watch after the next election, even if it is their party that get elected, they will deal with them, because the whole thing is not about following due process. It's not about sincerely fighting corruption. They can even cook up so many things and just rubbish their name. That's why you need to be very careful if you are a public official. Don't talk recklessly. Don't talk, with impunity. Don't talk with arrogance. Talk to Nigerians. You need to talk to Nigerians in a very decent and civilized way. If there are challenges, seek help, so that, because you are not personalizing the government. You cannot personalize government. Government is for Nigerians. And if because you have a rented tenure, whether you are talking on behalf of the government, then you come and insult people, or you come and make a ridiculous statement that tomorrow if they open what you say, you'll be ashamed of yourself that you make those kind of utterances. Some of them, we are seeing them from 1999 to date. We are seeing many of them either at local or at state or at national level who have made those kind of hopeless statements. Now, many of them being indicted by another government. So this is why you need to be very serious and be honest. look, if Muhammad Buhari, who say he want to fight corruption, if he understands, the rudiment of anti-corruption, the international network and collaboration, the role of non-state actors, including the media and civil society, and assembling the right team to help drive that agenda and operationalizing the national strategy on the fight against corruption, I am telling you, Nigeria will be celebrated. But it is a lost opportunity. For 7 years now, we are now, not 7 months, 7 years, we are facing these challenges, and the only response you get from the government is to insult us, to abuse us, to dismiss us, to even attempt to frame you.
Which takes me to my next question,
Okay.
Lukman. How much do you think the COVID-19 pandemic impacted on the anti-corruption fight in Nigeria and the product, the outcome of this CPI that we are seeing today? Did he aggravate it, for instance, or did he help in reducing corruption?
Yes, thank you very much. I think the COVID gives us opportunity to even understand the rotting in the public system. And you will agree with me that our challenge is system failure and impunity. System failure in the sense that we have a law, Public Procurement Act, that had provision for emergency procurement. And there are guidelines on how to go about procurement. Why do we need to now deviate by way of abusing the laws that National Assembly has enacted, it has been signed onto? If not COVID-19, look at the what we got during the public hearing last year from different agencies of government. Office of Auditor General came out and mentioned 9 ministry, departments, and agencies of government that spent unappropriated money during the COVID-19. That is a challenge that needs to be looked into. And I give you an example of this. FCTA budget was released, was approved in October last year, 2021 FCTA budget. What do you expect FCTA administration to do in October 2021 when you approved the 2021 budget? In October, 2 months to the end of the year. That means you are creating opportunities for some group of people to divert public resources, because there's nothing they can do during that period. The highest thing they will do is let's key into what is trending, which is COVID-19. And some people take that advantage of COVID-19 to siphon public resources. And we are not surprised seeing Nigerians coming to -1 again this year, but we still have opportunities to sit down with real people that will make things happen, so that in 2022, we still have time now to correct the abnormalities that we faced in 2021 CPI. This is the high time. And remember now, we are in the election period now. This is an opportunity for the political parties as well to take advantage of this CPI and sit down with real people and design system and strategies to see how their campaign will be robust. Look at our political process. Look at the cost of getting a form to contest for an election. For you to get that amount of money, it means we are creating a venue for people to go to power and now go and be siphoning public resources. That is what we are saying. But we should go back to the waste report and go and distill it and work around it and strengthen our political process. Because issue around political corruption is another discussion entirely. Because the CPI is looking at public corruption. By the time we look at sectorial corruption, that is another discussion. But if we can get our public procurement right, And that is why Nigerians need to play participatory role. Civil society organization can't be government, and we can't replace government. The only thing we can do is to complement what government is doing. And we are doing that as civil society organization. And I give you an example. Between 2018 to 2020, a lot of MOUs were signed with relevant anti-corruption agencies, a lot of support in terms of financial and technical to anti-corruption agencies so that we can get it right as a nation. Because during the review, they will not be asking of what EFCC is doing or what NFIU is doing. What is Nigeria doing? Now, assuming they want to review Nigeria now, do you have Proceeds of Crime Act in place? The answer will be no. And it has been no for the past how many years? It took us 17 years to have national anti-corruption strategies that was adopted in 2016. After adopting something that took us about 17 years, national anti-corruption strategy, for government to release funds for relevant leading agency to drive the process of operationalizing national anti-corruption strategy took us another time. Now the strategy has lapsed. Have we learned any lesson from the implementation? The answer is no. The recommendations from the 2 reviews of United Nations Convention Against Corruption, have we distilled it? Have we worked closely with? We are still seeing rivalry among the MDAs. Look at what is going on in the registration for name. If you go to a center now, you will pay money to get it. In fact, some of them are even doing fraudulent activity. They will not register you properly. It is when you get to your bank and you give them that slip, they key it into the platform, they will say, sorry, it has not dropped. It's not genuinely done. Who is tracking all those things? Nigerians are paying money to get registered on NIN platform. At the end of the day, you will take that paper to the bank or to anywhere and they will tell you that, sorry, this is fake.
It's not valid.
It's not valid. That is what Nigerians are experiencing now. People complained last week to me and I was surprised.
And all of these add up to the ranking that we have
because
now.
It is about system. That is why ICPC should take and stand well. One of their mandates is to do system review of ministry, department, and agencies, identify the vulnerabilities, and develop proper integrity plan to close those gaps. If Auditor General release report and say MDAs are not submitting statutory audit report, I expect Office of the Secretary of Government Operation to issue a guideline and ask them to submit that audited report under 3 months or 2 months, and failure to comply, an action should be taken. It is when we are seeing such action that Nigerians will now know that yes, we are serious. How can you issue a guideline?
Which goes back to what Ralph said earlier on, the lack
Look at
of
our recruitment process. Yeah. Our recruitment process now is now highest bidder. It is when once you have the money, you will get appointment letter. Are they saying they are not aware? The answer is no. And job racketeering is part of what the CPI measure. How are we recruiting? Because our recruiting process is faulty. It is not about your certificate or what you know. It's about whom you know.
And how much money you have.
How much money you have.
Yes.
And is that how we continue? We can't continue like that. And that is why we need to sit down with real people that understand the issue. And we lock ourselves in a room and discuss frankly and get it right. We still have that ample of opportunity.
So it does appear that what we have at the moment is that we are into self-denial.
That is it.
And because we also want to be reactive, because if the kind of programs that you have on fighting corruption, if it is get toward preventing the corruption, you would have dealt with so much so you spend a lot of money and energy chasing cases. At the end of the day, you even lose those cases. So why can't you just prevent it from happening?
Not to happen.
That will have been more cost effective.
And some of those cases have been there for as long as we have had democracy in this country.
Absolutely. And just the next thing is, once you come to the ruling party, then your matter is suspended or is closed. In fact, there are some of them that are EFCC customers. They ended up being appointed lucrative job in this country. You will demoralize even the anti-corruption agencies when they are, trying a particular, they are investigating a particular person, they carry the person to the court, and then simply because he or she has decamped to the ruling party, you now come and stand, and do photographs with him. Now tell me, how will, in all honesty, EFCC, ICPC will have the courage, after they've seen president taking photograph with their customer, and then, they will now go and do anything.
Well,
political corruption is a major issue.
One other aspect that was touched on by this report has to do with illegal financial outflows. And one of the criticisms about the TI report over time has been that, these monies that are stolen and taken out of Nigeria are taken out to foreign countries, where, of course, some of these international organizations are based or headquartered and all of that. And they say, how come TI is seen as an international organization?
Yes.
They do not see these reports or these rankings as being done and carried out by national chapters and local CSOs in Nigeria. They want to look at TI as an international organization, and they say, okay, for instance, all the monies that are stolen and taken out are taken to the major capitals of the West. Why is it that those countries are never mentioned when they talk about?
That's not correct, and that is not even what TI is set out to do with this. Every organization has its own focus. TI in this case is concentrating on public sector corruption. Other organizations stop other organizations, including even Nigerian government, to conduct this, to say, look, we have done survey, and these are the credible sources we have, and these are our evidence that what is going on in Europe or in Asia or in America is this and this, that and that. People will welcome that. But you don't expect TI to do everything. TI said that they want to do XYZ. Another organization say they are doing XYZ. So don't impose activity or action on TI. TI made it clear that this is what we are doing, and this is what we professionalize on doing. Some other organizations are also looking at those areas that you mentioned. But also to correct the impression, I just told you, last year, America rating was bad. Britain rating was bad. You understand? Swiss rating was bad. This year, Canada rating is bad. Belgium rating is bad. Switzerland rating is bad. I don't know to European, I don't know to where the money is going. America has not, is stagnated, has not moved up or moved down from the last year. It was only UK that made little move, and France improved. You understand? So people should just sit down, should stop sitting down there to listen to gossip. Let them do investigation and do research and get knowledge and information. I hear, somebody went to represent the ICPC chair, and he was making very, 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 I don't even know how to really qualify that kind of, ignorant comment about this. He said that the data that TI is using is outdated, as if he is the one who has gone to do this. So there are some of these people who, because he's a media consultant, so he is depending his consultancy there, but destroying also the image of ICPC. Because I know the chair very well. The chair will not make that kind of reckless talk, because he knows that he is dealing with public corruption every day. ICPC are recovering a lot of money from public officials on daily basis. So he will not go, that will have been contradiction.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. I think that a lot of the cobwebs have been cleared.
Yes.
I hope and I believe that there's a better understanding of how these CPI is
methodology
used and the sources of data, the focus and all of that. Thank you so much for your time. Our Raswanjani is the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, and Head of Transparency International in Nigeria. Thank you for your time. And Lukman Adefolahon. Lukman is an anti-corruption expert, and he is with the 21st Century Community Empowerment Initiative, a member of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption Coalition. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Well, that's our program for today. Thank you for investing your time with us. Join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of the program. In the meantime, you can, of course, join us and give us your feedback on all our social media platforms, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and what have you. Any of those platforms, we are there. And, of course, you can always be part of this program. My name is Imonia Marere. Bye for now.